Hi Virgo, it's Denise with Divine Soul Astrology, and today I'm here to discuss the Sagittarius Full Moon, which is happening May 31st, and it's at 1:45 a.m., and that is on the West Coast here in the United States. So please check for your own time around the world because it will be much later in some parts of the world. Excuse me, the moon will be at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. And here it is right here. And I have you on the ascendant so you can look at your chart a little easier. It does say the DC, the descendant, but please don't pay attention to that or any of the other, the AC, the IC, and the MC, because now that I have you on the ascendant, the software moves you, all right? Or moves that. So this is going to be for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And Virgo, the full moon is happening here in your fourth house of emotional foundation, home and family, roots and lineage. That's a very important house. It is. And the moon is opposing the sun in another angular house, another very important life house, which is your career or your social roles. It can be, marriage, things like that, the authority and the ambition you wield over your own life. So that's what's happening there. So this axis, though, is for you, is between that home and family or your emotional foundation, your private life, and your professional life, or maybe your social life. It can sometimes be a work home life balance type of thing as well. Now, I didn't mention this, but the axis itself with the full moon in Sagittarius and Gemini is the learning or the intellectual axis. That's what it is, right? So the moon is in your fourth house of emotional foundation. That's emotional. It right there out the gate, right? And so it is here. Who made that up out the gate? But it is here, with Black Moon Lilith, and this is a shadow aspect of yourself that is affecting your emotional foundation. So, and the full moon is trying to illuminate that, and so we can let that go, right? Or so you can let it go. And also, yeah, Lilith can have to do with our fears. Lilith wants to kind of really be authentic and let loose, but there's a shadow aspect or something's holding Lilith back, right? There's a myth to it, but that's really what it is. Lilith wants to be free and work on this raw or let loose and live with this raw energy, but there's a shadow that is holding Lilith back. So here we have it here in your fourth house. And there's something that can be deeply rooted within you that needs to be healed or at least seen. Because once we see the shadow, we can step out of the dark and into the light, right? And so we have that. And so Jupiter is ruling your fourth house of, emotional foundation and your seventh house. And yeah, see, these are angular houses. The seventh house is your relationships, clients, and, one-on-ones, but any relationship. It's also how you create harmony and fairness in your life, and also opponents and legal matters. So, hopefully there's not anything legal going on here, but it can end a legal cycle for you. It can, the full moon. Um, and so then we have, and Jupiter is actually in, the North Node is in Pisces, asking you to trust, with the moon, asking you to trust your intuition about something that maybe is not balanced in your life or how to bring balance into your life, something that may be about relationships. But, Pisces always wants us to trust our intuition. It's just all day long and twice on Sunday. That is the higher expression of Pisces, right? And trust your imagination, trust in your dreams and your visions. So here we have Jupiter actually showing up in your 11th house of future aspirations. There's something with the ending here that you want a new beginning, and that you want to expand, likely, or grow, or you can also be gaining a lot of wisdom with this full moon that can help you move into your future a lot easier, right? Excuse me, that 11th house is also the house of social groups or like-minded people, sometimes social change, right? Because of the social aspect, and it's friends as well, the 11th house. And so there can be something going on there with friends, possibly, because, they can also be over here, but in that seventh, sometimes partnerships with friends. A Libra's, the seventh house is where we like to have friends. It is, and so is the 11th. But here we have Venus, Jupiter there. Um, and let's see what else Jupiter is doing. And this seventh house that is being ruled by Jupiter is also your house of opponents. Yeah, it's not just, just partnerships, no, or harmony and balance, because opponents, the other part of the scale, right? Now, um, yeah, and there can be something you might not feel like there's enough meaning in your relationships. That can be the case there. Because that's what Sagittarius wants for us, or the full moon. It wants us to live with more meaning or our higher purpose, yes, or purpose in general, right? We all need purpose in our lives, all right? And then we talk about Mercury here. Mercury is the ruler of the sun, right? The very intelligent Mercury, yes. And so here is ruling your 10th house of career and social roles, right? I don't think I talked about this yet, but your social roles, your public role, your reputation, the 10th house is where we have long-term goals, consolidating. It's the authority you take over your own life, so you can have that really. But that 10th house, the sun, Mercury is ruling that 10th house for you. It rules your first house as well. Everything is angular in this, so much angular. So this angular, kind of placements here in your first, your fourth, your seventh, and your 10th, that these are very important life houses. And so your life is really taking, this full moon is very meaningful to you, is my whole point, right? And so, yeah, and so we have Mercury ruling your first, and part of fortune is in your first house, right here, conjoined with the South Node. And the South Node's been there for a long time, kind of showing you, Virgo, what you need to move away from, right? The South Node is limited, is kind of, associated with the past, the familiar past that we no longer need to really focus on. Doesn't mean the memories of your brother or, your uncle. It doesn't mean that. But it means move away from things that are limiting us, that are associated with the past, or things that, bring lack, right? Because the North Node is the opposite, and the North Node is our higher potential and, fate. So we've had this here a long time. Part of fortune is here as well, and the moon is making a square to your first house. A big, for you, Virgo, this is probably you in Cancer and Sagittarius and Gemini. I see the most kind of, where this can resonate the most, the Sagittarius full moon. And remember, full moon they can bring endings and new beginnings, right? Um, and so that square here to your first house, it's moving away. The moon is the separating square. You can see it kind of dimmed out here, to the south node. But the part of fortune is, it's a very strong square where the moon is at 9 degrees and, part of fortune is at 10. And what is part of fortune? It doesn't really have to do with luck so much. It has to do with helps us, uh, you know, realize a fortune, really. It's about how we thrive. So the moon here, this very philosophical moon that has to do with growth and expansion and wisdom, is squaring, asking you to make an adjustment so you can thrive. Yeah, so you can thrive, Virgo. So very interesting there. And Mercury, your ruler, is in its own sign in that 10th house of social roles. It can be marriage, the social roles, right? Because I was talking about these angular houses are the most important, houses in our chart, right? Marriage and, things like that. And then relationships and harmony, and then the home and the family and our emotional foundation, and our first house of motivation over here, right? And self. So very, very important there. Um, yeah, and your ruler is making a trine to the North Node. I didn't mention this, but let's look at your ruler Mercury right here. here's the trine. It is kind of moving away. Oh, it's there, but um, yeah, Mercury is kind of moving past the trine. Mercury is the faster moving planet here. And the North Node is here. It's really a point in the sky, but the Sun is making a square there to your North Node, your seventh house of, relationships and, how you create harmony and things like that. There's some type, the Moon is making that square. And Mercury, your natal ruler, is making the trine. So the trine makes things a little easier. Interesting how we have that because the Mercury will move into, they're still calling it a trine, yeah, even though Mercury is in an air sign and Pisces is a water sign. Highly interesting there because usually they're in the same element, but that's okay, not all the time. Mercury wants you to think about your long-term goals and honestly, with the full moon, what is meaningful to you? And where you're growing and expanding in your life, like you feel things have purpose for you, right? And so that trine is going to help you like kind of move toward your soul, what your soul really wants for you, Virgo. All right, that trine. And so beautiful, Virgo. And I think I'm going to end this reading. Thank you so much for joining me here. We'll talk about one more planet, though. We're going to talk about Venus because it is important. Venus is in your 11th house of um, of future aspirations and like-minded people. There's something here. There could be a relationship that you're in that you feel like you're just not aligned with anymore as well. That could be happening with the Sagittarius full moon. But why is Venus important? Well, it's in your house of future aspirations, but and squaring your eighth house of transformation, but Venus is here also with Jupiter, right? They are not conjoined any longer, but no, it's a little far here, but it doesn't matter. Jupiter's in that 11th house of future aspirations, and Jupiter wants meaning for your future. All right. Now that Venus there in the 11th house, Venus is squaring, as I said, your eighth house of transformation and to Aries, which is the sign of the self, very something personal, right? Can definitely be. And and this is the sign of action, right? Ruled by Mars. I want this, right? I do this. That's what Aries says, something like I do, or I will, or I act. That is like the mantra there. But here we have Venus making that square to Athena Palace, as just one of the kind of the fixed stars or asteroids rather, that are here. And so Venus is saying, for your own well-being and to move into the future, make an adjustment and see the emotional patterns with Venus, Athena Palace, the emotional patterns that you have noticed, those that you have kind of, incorporated your own, or that you're doing, that you're acting on, right? And the moon is making a trine to that house of transformation. So there's some type of ending here, right? Venus is ruling your ninth house of growth and expansion. So very good for you, Virgo. Something could really end for you. But thank you so much for joining me here. If you've liked my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell and you'll be notified of my next reading. And there is a reading below, and it is the nodes being squared by Uranus. Very important transit. Yes, it is. And that is below, right on the screen. It should be showing up. And yeah, thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video.